Good evening, everyone, and I welcome you all to our meeting, which is themed on emerging cybersecurity trends and the future ahead. And thank you so much for being on time. Let me first introduce formally each one of you. We have with us Mr. Ritesh Bhatia, who is the founding director of P4Web. Welcome, Mr. Ritesh. We also have with us Mr. Milind Agrawal, who is the president of CyberCrime Awareness Society. Welcome, Mr. Milind. We also have with us Mr. Gaurav Batra, who is the founder and CEO of CyberFrat. I welcome you all to our today's meeting. So, my first question is from Mr. Gaurav Batra. Mr. Gaurav, artificial intelligence and machine learning are trending right now. We all know that it is an effective tool for threat detection, but it is also being used by criminal networks to automate their attacks. What is your take on this?
So today, artificial intelligence and machine learning is actually going to be part an amazing tool for business and developments, and not only in cybersecurity, but today the IT is becoming business enabler because we have this emerging technologies like AI and ML. When we talk about it in the cybersecurity industry, yes, the hackers are using it in different ways to automate their attacks. And also not only to attacks at the organization level, but at the users level, where artificial intelligence is also getting used in the form of pictures with the deep fakes, deep videos, morphing. A lot of things are coming in, and also in a sophisticated fashion, where attacks are basically getting automated, and the technology is being smart enough to taking a part of user and acting on their behalf. So the DDoS attack, the web application attack, a lot of things are happening in that fashion. So the tools, always when the IT is evolving, it's there to help the business to grow. But then there are, always the dark side of the same. So that is where AI and ML is also, putting a lot of thing. So not only in a fashion, where the hackers, they will automate or do the attacks, but also a lot of data analytics, right? Where we talk about the user awareness, like, if the hackers, maybe they put some malicious code on your mobile, or start looking into the kind of feeds which are going in, the kind of the voices, the talks you are having, or your data that you are chatting, or whatever you are typing, they are collecting each and everything. And what it is helping the hackers is, instead of monitoring you 24/7, so they have put the AI engines over there, which have some keywords, algorithms, and look into that, okay, what time they need to trigger an attack on you. Because today everyone is attacked or hacked, I will say. But when actually you will come to know when hackers will actually see something good for them in your data. So like, the keywords, like I'll say the credit card details. So lot of computers are feeding the data into the a hacker's machine, but when they see some patterns are matching, or even the hackers are actually taking feeds from the photographs or the storage of each and everyone's account with some malicious tools, but they will not attack you back or put something, but they have some algorithms which says, okay, the videos or the pictures which are coming in now, that has 90% plus skin visible, and that time the attacks are getting triggered. So AI ML is actually helping as a business to be more enabled, but also attackers are using it in a vast way. So different forms, different tricks they are using this.
Mr. Ritesh, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so maybe I can just add a point from, for the benefit of your viewers. Let's also look at that the sophistication of the attacks, not only in DDoS and other kind or on the infrastructure, but even on the common citizens, that is also increasing quite a lot. Like look at deep nudes. There was earlier something called as morphing, right? It's still there, but then you need like the Photoshop and other image editing tools. But what happens in a deep nude? So let's say here is a picture of a person who's sitting on the beach. Okay, now in order to put his or her face on another person, that other person also should be on a beach, then only it will match. But in deep nude, it only takes like less than 20 seconds to give you a completely nude picture of that particular person, even if he's fully dressed, and the same beach and the same sand and the same crow flying over there. Okay, so this is what basically AI ML is actually doing. So it's just not that. Now there has been like deep fake voices also, which means the computers. So now this is for the organization. So let's say, and this literally happened in Germany, where what had happened was that a particular person called up his CEO of some other who was sitting in UK, and he told him, look, why don't you transfer $243,000 to a Hungarian supplier? So this CEO who was sitting in UK, he said, okay, my German boss has told me, let me do it. He immediately does that. But this was not the real German boss. No, it was not even somebody like a Johnny Lever who was mimicking it. It was a machine. It was a machine which had captured his voice, and a script was created and a call was made to the British CEO. So this is called as audio deepfakes. Now, audio deepfakes are coming up. This is just one case. Then after that, just recently, there was a second case. But I'm saying, in the years to come, maybe by next year, we will hear a lot of this. The spear phishing or the whaling that we have will now get converted, or the audio deepfakes will take over. So deepfakes is one part of it, but this audio deepfakes is the second part of it, which is also concerning. Like that, there are many more.
Right. Okay, very well said, sir. So everyone, we have with us Mr. Rizwan Shaikh, who is the founder and CTO of Pristine Infosolutions. So Mr. Rizwan, we were talking about how artificial intelligence and machine learning serve us in both the ways. It is also helping us in threat detection as well, but it also has some demerits as well. So we were discussing this with Mr. Gaurav Batra, and we were also taking response from Mr. Ritesh as well on that. Okay, so we can ask next question from Mr. Rizwan only. So Mr. Rizwan, we all know that privacy policy is a very important thing that everyone should read before ticking the boxes, right? But each one of us do not actually read the privacy policy. So can you help us understand why is it important to read a privacy policy?
Okay, so typically we got the biggest habit of going and installing any particular thing or visiting any of the websites, applications, or any of the service. And there is always an option where we always go ahead and click I read terms and conditions without actually reading it and going ahead with it, because that's very, very big, and usually it has a legal kind of language which the laymen don't understand at times. And even the technical people do ignore it. So why it is important to read it? Because there might be a pointer. Imagine I gave you some software and I have written a line over there saying that, okay, you allow us to access your contact book or your so-and-so service, or it can be your geolocation, which you yourself has given the permission to me to download or access that particular data, maybe for use as a feature inside that application or service, but indirectly it's coming to my server. That can be misused as well. So that's why reading is very important. However, when we talk about typically some advanced level services or the recent technologies like AI or machine learning, we usually have a tendency of facing certain big challenges that may include providing a wide surface attack to the hacker. Now, it's basically, let's just take an example of any big technology which is currently running in the world. I was somewhere in UAE where I found many of the things are updated with the latest technology, which we are implementing slowly. So even they lack cybersecurity features over there. So it's like, let me take the biggest example, the Tesla cars that are moving on the road. We have Tesla cars moving on the road with 360-degree camera, wide, recording everything, transferring their data to their servers, and segregating it using AI features, scanning various people, whether it's a tree, it's a person, it's a car moving with the number of car and everything. But imagine this huge chunk of data is actually going to a server located somewhere, and data can be misused, right? So it's not just like when facilities comes, there are pros and cons associated with everything. It's not just blaming Tesla on any one single company, but it's like the laws also needs to be upgraded well. Compliance should be implemented well. And as an end user, the thing about reading privacy policy is just limited. You are not going to make a huge difference just by reading it. Anyhow, like many of the applications, I would say the majority of them do not allow user to use it till the time you do not accept it. So at the end, if you want to use that particular service, you indirectly have to accept it. Whether you're reading it or not, it's a different thing. But yes, one should be aware about what are the things that you're going and giving or granting the access to the server, to the developer, or to the system admin once you are using that service. And to put this in a very basic method for the users, we can say, like, even if we use a single application, let it be WhatsApp, let it be Facebook, the application that you're using also has certain features integrated with it, which demands you certain permissions. Cell phone is something which is in everyone's hand, right? So I'm taking an example of cell phone with an application so that people understand this. We do install the software by granting all the permissions. Now, it is but obvious the data is going in an encrypted format, and it's not usually that everything is getting misused just by giving the permission. But the same type of application, someone else has built it, and the owner is some local guy sitting in 5 kilometers away from you, and you install the application developed by him and granting all the permissions. Here you make a difference. So granting the access without reading to someone who is a small vendor or who is someone having malicious intention, you don't know. So we can definitely rely on companies like Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Twitter, who are giants. Here I'm not saying like rely completely and give or grant every damn access, but still they are big. We know it's not only us, it's entire world they are getting the access of. However, granting access to someone who is just sitting next door to you and having 5 users overall or 20 users, that should be avoided. That's from
right. Very well said, because obviously we need to think twice before granting permission to any application that we use. Okay.
So I'd just like to add some point
Sure.
here, Himangi. So, like, when we are saying about granting permissions or reading the privacy policy, so it's not possible that all users, who are going to read it will able to understand it, or they will not have the tendency to, read between the lines, because most of these policies are written in the legal language. So what we need an agency or a government body who will monitor that when these applications are launching. So the body who understand the privacy and the human rights and define the rules that when you're putting this, what kind of data you can collect, how it's going to use, and what all terms and conditions are defined, and that should be approved before the user can actually, before using they can accept. So there should be somebody who will define that what you can define in terms and conditions, because even we are sitting in these forums, we can say that okay, people should read. Who is going to actually read? And if they read, will they understand? So that's a big question which we have today.
Right. Very well said.
So I want to add one more thing.
Sure.
There is a very good point of Mr. Gaurav,
Mm-hmm.
and he clearly defines that there need to be some organization for the data security.
Right.
So currently there is no law for the data protection. There is a rules only, but India is working on the law. Soon there will be the data protection law. There will be an organization who is going to take over the control of all the data which has been shared by other companies located outside of the India.
Right. Thank you for adding to that. Okay, so my next question is from Mr. Ritesh. Mr. Ritesh, small businesses are more prone to cyber attacks than any big organization, and some reports have also validated the statement. So what do you have to say on that?
What's the second part of your question? One you said is small businesses are more prone to the attacks.
Right.
And
I said that some reports are also validating the statement that this is true. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you look at the cybersecurity industry, and firstly, it requires quite a lot of hygiene, a cyber hygiene as such, which is generally like kind of missing in these small medium businesses, because their focus is to ensure that the production is done, that the services are rendered, and the money comes in. So it's like more of a one-man show who has to do a lot many things. Look at it from that entrepreneur's angle. So for him, like anything to do with all these things is going to be a large priority. And because of that, since the culture is not there at the top, it never goes right till the bottom also. Now, when we compare it with the large organizations have dedicated infosecurity teams who are actually like, taking care of everything, including the training, and then also buying products. And unfortunately, the cybersecurity products are very, very expensive. It's not that even they are like in lakhs, they generally go into crores because of the models that they have. Like if you look at it over a 10-year period, it will definitely go into crores. So that is another important reason. We say, okay, it is per user only 1,000 rupees a month. Like now look at a medium industry also who wants to, or a small industry who just wants even Gmail as a service. Okay, so how much does it cost? It's like going to somewhere around 1,500 rupees. You say, oh, 1,500 is not so bad. But then being a medium industry, he's got 50 users. So that 1,500 into 50, that's an annual cost. Add to the top. So just imagine what will happen at the end of the 5 years or 10 years. It's a big, big cost. So, so that is the major reason why I would say, like, these guys are prone to attacks. They are not even part of some community wherein they would have heard about, let's say, a business email compromise scam. Now, that's a common scam that you will not find it like really happening in the large organizations. You will always find business email compromise scam maximum, mostly with these small to medium enterprises. So now whatever like 20-30 cases that I have investigated, these people, they didn't even know that, okay, this is a kind of it's called as a business email compromise scam, and this is exactly how it happens. So other thing, as far as small medium enterprises is concerned, their attitude is jab hoga tab dekha jayega. Okay, so that is their main attitude. And when it happens, tab unka attitude ho jata hai, jo ho gaya so ho gaya, now it won't happen again. So they don't want to get into remediation, they don't want to get into investigation, they don't want to get into prevention so that it doesn't happen, because the only thing that they see is the cost. And now for any small medium enterprise, having this cost, which is, there is absolutely, it erodes their capital as such. So they always look at this thing at the, as their last priority. So that's majorly why you see more and more attacks happening over there. The last point about the human, we say the human is the weakest link. It's correct, because these people also have certain targets. And, if I just like send an email to a small company and say, here, find the purchase order attached, he's just going to open the PDF. He may be having an antivirus, but that antivirus would have expired also. So they don't even care about that one. When I have gone to audit these companies, they said, we have a firewall. When I looked at the firewalls were not even configured. It was just a box kept over there and with the power supply. So as good as doing nothing over there. Same was with antivirus. A client of mine where I had gone over there, he had paid for an antivirus for 3 years. When I went over there, it was already 2 years that were passed, but he had not even activated. So that means the supplier came, he just installed the antivirus on the machines. He didn't put it for activation. He didn't. And that's the reason after 30 days, it stopped working. So here, there is no team. There are no people here. It's the IT guy who manages everything, right from the printer supplies. All the supplies of the printer is not working. The internet is not working. So even if the paper is not there, he's taking care of everything. So it's just one man checking out everything. So how do we really expect, these companies to be doing something about it?
Right, correct. But I also think that, awareness can play a very crucial role in that, right? Awareness, right. So, Mr. Milind, do you have to say anything on that? Like, what can awareness do in this particular issue?
See, currently there is a lack of awareness. Still, we are answering the calls, and people are still victim to the fake calls and all. So awareness always plays a good role. So rather making our laws on all these things, awareness is also important to every guy.
Okay, that's correct. Okay, so my last question is from you, Mr. Milind. So we know that India is emerging into a very, big tech industry, and that is why some people are arguing that the country should develop, its own cyber weapon. So how prepared is India for a cyber warfare if it happens?
Okay, so see, there are two sides. There is a positive and negative side. So if we talk about the positive side, India has an organization that is called NTRO, National Technical Research Organization, and that organization is providing technical intelligence to internal and external security. And there is a CERT as well, that is Computer Emergency Response Team, which notifies concern regarding the cyber attack and analysis of the vulnerabilities and the bugs. And there are national cybercrime, cybersecurity policies as well, which aim to protect public and private infrastructure from cyber attacks. And the last, India is working with the US on the cybersecurity. But when we see on the negative side, currently India has around 10,000 cyber experts only, whereas our neighboring countries like China has around more than 10 lakh of cyber experts. And if you know that in October 2016, many of Indian banks are become vulnerable, has been attacked by data. There is a data security breaches. And it was the biggest cyber attack in the India. And India cannot able to stop it from happening. And as you saw, as you already told that there is a lack of awareness, people are still responding to the fake calls about credit card and bank account detail. They are leaking on the phone calls. And we are still importing many electronic devices, gadgets from China. And as we all know that many of those gadgets contain malware, spyware, viruses. And the last point, there is a very little or very less control over the hardware used by internet users. So that's why India still does not have proper system to access the nature of cyber threats and respond to them effectively.
So has anyone has to say anything on what Mr. Milind has said? Mr. Rizwan?
Yes, so I completely accept, and it's a very good point being raised by everyone. Just to add the pointers, like definitely the government is going to play a big role, and as an end user, there are limitations, restrictions for everything. Not much can be done. And the best point is, yes, I also completely accept that an entity or a separate government community or a body should be made, which should do the initiation assessment of any application, service, or anything that is coming up and gonna be live for the users. So that is what going to protect or prevent up to a mark with any kind of unethical or illegal thing that can happen using that particular thing or service. So definitely it's a very big point. And a last thing which I recommend is creating mass awareness is also a very, very important point. And this is not just the responsibility of government, but it's the responsibility of every individual working in this particular profile of field. Right. And they can give their best in whatever way possible. Right from like charity begins at your home. The word is same for the technical and the legal perspective as well. So right from educating our family, relatives, friends, neighbors, then we should expand it to the community and the reach. And that's what going to make us a healthy and a safe nation in the virtual world as
well. Okay, so I have a question for each one of you. We all know that India has been ranked 10th in Global Cybersecurity Index by International Telecommunication Union, right? So what all are the parameters that you think India has been using to strengthen itself in the cybersecurity domain? Let's start with Mr. Ritesh first.
I didn't get the second part of your question.
I said that India has been ranked 10th in the global cybersecurity index, right? Yeah. So what all are the parameters that India has been developing as a country to strengthen itself in the cybersecurity domain?
Yeah. So I think India has been kind of investing heavily into cybersecurity, and it is, for the first time we are also seeing that it is just not only the private organizations which are doing, but every department. So whether it is even an income tax department or it's a municipal corporation or any government department, they are taking cybersecurity extremely seriously. And we can make this out because the kind of the audits that are happening at these places, many of these large organizations, which is like, for example, the income tax, they are also developing their own in-house forensics teams also. So they are buying all these tools. So we know a lot of these, and especially the critical infrastructure, if you look at it, they have been investing in many cybersecurity tools. In fact, for most of the vendors, I think the government has been their biggest client in terms of spending, and so it is interesting to know that that the government is being very, very proactive in purchasing these products and ensuring that India's cybersecurity only becomes better and better. What I see today, 10th, I'm hoping that by next year or another 2-3 years, we should be in the top 5.
Okay, let's quickly move to Mr. Gaurav.
Yeah, actually, I totally align with Ritesh what he said. You know how the different department of government agencies are buying and investing into the cybersecurity. Another thing which we have seen how these agencies, the law enforcement agencies, are getting aware and getting trained for to use these tools. And then I have seen the police department or the people like Rizwan and Ritesh who are actually training all those folks. Then how it's going to the user awareness as well. So a lot of work is happening in that space, and each and every department of government have now their own IT heads and the security heads coming in and working in that space. So that is actually helping India to strengthen the cybersecurity space.
Okay, over to you, Mr. Milind.
Okay. So first of all, I think these all are the experts, so they all know about the GCI and all. But many of the users maybe are not aware with the GCI. So basically, GCI stands for Global Cybersecurity Index, and that is the evaluation based on five points. That is legal, technical, organizational measure, capacity, and cooperation. So there are some reasons on which I want to focus upon. First of all, the National Cybersecurity Strategy 2020, which has been formulated to improve the cyber awareness and cybersecurity by strict auditing and all. Second, the draft of Personal Data Protection Bill, which has been passed in 2018 to secure citizens' data. And there has been set up of I4C, that stands for Indian CyberCrime Coordination Center, which are dealing with all types of cybercrime. And as I told earlier as well about the CERT, which is managing all the vulnerabilities and emergency responses. And the last point, there is an NCIIPC organization that stands for National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center. That is for protection of critical information infrastructure, right? So because of all these reasons, these are improving and strengthening under all parameters of cybersecurity domain. So that's why, that is the reason India has been jumped from 37th position to 10th position globally. And India is on 4th rank in Asia Pacific region. So these are all the reasons behind that.
Okay, Mr. Rizwan, let's quickly take your view.
Okay, so what I see is this GCI rating has given a good instances and all the things for India. However, what I believe is the kind of talent we have and the kind of people, especially talking about the technical world, India has created. There's no one in the world who can compete with us if we see. However, like this is reflected, especially if you see the CEOs of various big giant companies. Majority of them are Indians. So I'm not just budging about like India is doing well in this, but somewhere down the line, we should be among top 2, top 3 with the kind of talent we have. But this is still like difference is similar to the difference in rich and poor people. It's similar to technical and non-technical. The technical people are very technical. They are very good with it. But when we talk about the non-technical manpower available in India, it's completely non-technical. Even the basics are in very bad shape. So if we see the largest number of people, bad situation where even we are falling victim to such basic and simple types of cybercrime, that needs to be improved, and definitely we should be among top 2, top 3 initially in the upcoming year.
Right. Cheers to that. Okay, so that's it for today's meeting. Thank you so much, everyone, for giving such valuable insights. I just got completely lost in the cybersecurity world for this 30 minutes. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Ritesh. Thank you, Mr. Milind. Thank you, Mr. Gaurav. And thank you, Mr. Rizwan. Thank you so much for this wonderful meeting and for wonderful insights. Thank you. Have a great day, all of you.